So one thing that I think people know about the Dua brand is that they make original creations, but they also make inspirations of very popular niche and designer fragrance. Here, they are taking more of an indie and artisanal route with the brand new fragrance, which is called Kali. I'm excited to give you my thoughts on this oud, rose, patchouli, and sandalwood based fragrance. So make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin today's episode, and I give you my thoughts on the brand new Kali by the Dua brand, and I give you my thoughts on the smell, the notes, the performance, longevity, comparisons to popular fragrances, so on and so forth, I do want to start things off by saying that if you're a fan of fragrance-related content, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it. Hit the bell icon so you could be notified whenever I do upload future videos to the channel. And of course, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it or if you took something of value from today's episode. It would really mean a lot to me. So, Kali comes from Kalimantan, which is located in Indonesia. And it's a region of Indonesia that borders Borneo, if the research that I did is correct. So the agarwood ingredient that is in here is sourced from that particular region. And of course, that abbreviated name has become the name of this fragrance. There's also sandalwood in here from a 1992 harvest. And there is real oak moss. This is not an IFRA certified fragrance. So IFRA certifications usually put some limitations on the quantity of certain ingredients that can be used in a particular fragrance. So of course, in this particular fragrance, a lot of ingredients are used in abundance. So there's a lot of castoreum, for example, there's patchouli, there's May rose, there's so much, just wonderful ingredients, so many wonderful ingredients to be thoroughly enjoyed about this fragrance. I'm going to give you my thought on the smell, and I'm going to give you my impression when it comes to the overall vibe that is created by this fragrance. But let's go ahead and start things off with a quick look at the presentation. So, wow. I took a look at the note breakdown and you have everything from fig to dates to apricot, castoreum, jasmine, rose, sandalwood, nagarmotha, labdanum, dry resin. You have so much going on in this fragrance. So I really wasn't sure what direction this fragrance was going to take. Was it going to be a little bit more on the woodsy side of things? Was there going to be a prominent floral heart? Was there going to be this tart fruity introduction with the fig and the dates and all these other notes, the apricot, so on and so forth? And what I can say is that, as if the color of the liquid didn't give it away, this is a very heavy fragrance. I must caution you now, this is for the connoisseur. This is not entry level. If you're expecting a citrusy aquatic that's light and lofty and it's gonna get you a million compliments by the same 5 people, this is not the fragrance for that, right? This is a very dark, heavy, sophisticated, dense, but also regal and opulent smelling fragrance. It does come across smelling very expensive, and that's primarily because the quality of the ingredients is very high. The ingredients that are used in this fragrance are very expensive. And when you smell it, it does not smell generic. It does not smell cheap. It does not smell nondescript. It has a very visible, very noticeable, and conspicuous personality about it. This is a very strong fragrance. So the agarwood is in here, and there's a bit of an animalic touch to it as well. There's also castoreum in here. Castoreum is also an animalic ingredient, so that's why the oud that's in here kind of gives off that vibe. Now, there's a bit of an ambery sweetness, and I think that that's also contributing to the color of the liquid. There's labdanum, there's styrax, there's a touch of sweetness, ever so light, but it does have this prominent balsamic character and trait about it that it's hard to overlook the ambery dry down of this fragrance. Of course, in terms of the floral ingredients, I think the May rose or the rose in general is probably a little bit stronger than some of the other florals like the jasmine in here, because I do get this sort of sensual, exotic quality about the fragrance, and I think the rose is contributing to that. And of course, there are some roses out there that have a honeyed personality about them, a honeyed aroma, and I find that to be the case in this fragrance. Now, in terms of that fruity opening with the dates and the fig and the apricot, I'm not getting too much of that. And I think that's because my nose is kind of on this narrow mindset, if you will, where it's sort of focusing on the dry down and it's focusing on these heavy, heavy, heavy notes that are lingering in the base, and they are there, they're quite prominent, they're making their appearance and their presence known. And the sandalwood in here is really interesting too. It's very smooth, there's a bit of creaminess, it joins the amber, and the sandalwood is from a 1992 harvest. The patchouli, it's very earthy, and it's one of those patchouli ingredients where it's kind of on the border of being chocolatey, something like a Noir de Noir by Tom Ford, but it's kind of letting the balsamic ingredients like the styrax and the labdanum work all the magic when it comes to the sweetness, right? So the patchouli itself is still quite earthy. This is a really, really special fragrance from Dua, and this also showcases a hidden talent from the brand that we hadn't seen too much of in previous fragrances. They do have a lot of bespoke fragrances that kind of ventured this sort of indie territory, but even when I'm thinking about some of the most popular indie brands today, whether it be something like a Slumber House or whatever, I can't really compare this to anything. It smells to me more like an exquisite, high-priced attar that has the oud and the rose, and it just smells very elegant and it has this grandeur about it. It's a special fragrance and you definitely ought to try it out. And I really enjoyed this fragrance. Everything from the bottle, the metal plaque, the name of the fragrance, the color of the liquid, and the overall composition, I think is blended very, very nicely. That oak moss that's residing underneath is very earthy, very strong, powerful, and it lifts up all of the other ingredients the way the oud does as well. Very special. Definitely check it out if you have a chance. Let's go ahead and finish things off with my overall assessment. So first up, in terms of the uniqueness and the overall smell, this is definitely a unique fragrance for me. Of course, I've tried other oud rose fragrances on the market, but the way this one is done with some of these other ingredients, the florals, the fruits, the spices, the nagarmo, the touch of smoke, some incensey components, the balsamic richness in the base, it's really quite special. Longevity, 10 plus hours, extrait de parfum strength. In terms of the projection, it was really good for the first hour and a half of application. It didn't become an elbows length scent until around hour 7. It became a skin scent right around hour 10 or 11. Actually, even if you wash your hands several times, it's nearly impossible to take this stuff off. It's really long lasting. In terms of the versatility, I would wear this one just in the winter. If I'm being honest, this is definitely a dressed up fragrance. It's a little masculine leaning, and this one is definitely, you know, for somebody a little bit older, a little bit more experienced when it comes to niche or indie and artisanal fragrances. And in terms of the presentation, I really do enjoy the presentation. The new caps, the box is very nice too, the embossed font on the front, the lettering on the inside, just everything about it is very, very nice. My final verdict on this fragrance is if you are a fan of high quality raw materials, you're not concerned about a fragrance being IFRA certified, you want to smell real oud, real oak moss, real sandalwood, real rose, and a lot of really high quality ingredients, check out Kali by the Dua brand. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you took something of value from today's episode. If you did, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it. Hit the bell icon and give this video a thumbs up. Love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.